I got off work early, thinking I'd surprise my wife. Instead, I walked into our house and spotted a trail of clothes snaking up the staircase to our bedroom. A gray flannel shirt crumpled at the base, her red bra dangling on the 4th step, his leather belt slung over the 9th. Each item was like a page in a book I'd been too blind to read for months. The air in the house felt heavy, buzzing with that tense vibe you get right before a storm hits. My name's Garrett Holden, and I spend my days wrenching on car engines in a shop. At 39, with hands rough as sandpaper, I guess I'm the last guy in suburban Oregon to realize his wife was stepping out on him. The funny thing is, I can pinpoint a busted alternator from a mile away, but I missed the cracks in my own marriage happening right under my roof. I set my toolbox down by the front door, careful not to make a sound. The old clock in the living room ticked like it was counting down to something big. Every tick felt heavy, like the world was giving me a moment to brace for what was coming. I heard their voices floating down from upstairs, soft chuckles, the groan of the mattress. Sounds that should have been mine in the house I've been paying for since we got hitched 15 years ago. I sank into my old armchair, the one spot in this place that still felt like mine, and pulled out my phone, opening the video recorder. Then I waited, still as a guy staking out a fishing spot at dawn. The laughter cut off. I heard the bathroom faucet running, then more hushed voices. These weren't kids sneaking around for a quick fling. These were grown folks who'd been at this game for a while. About half an hour later, they strolled down the stairs together. My wife Clara came first, running her fingers through her hair, trying to act like she had it all together. Behind her was some dude in his mid-30s, built like he lived at the gym and chugged protein shakes for breakfast. He was zipping up his jacket, moving with the smug swagger of a guy who thought he'd pulled one over. "Oh, hell," Clara muttered when she spotted me. I held up my phone, already rolling. "Hey, honey," I said, keeping my voice light. "Good day so far?" The guy, I later found out his name was Vance Colton, stepped forward. "Look, buddy, let me clear this up." "Clear what?" I kept my tone easy, like we were chatting over beers. "How your belt ended up on my staircase. How you wound up half-dressed in my bedroom. I'm real curious about the details." Clara's face cycled through a rainbow of shades before landing on ghostly pale. "Garrett, please just let me—" "Let you what?" I cut in. "Tell me this ain't what it looks like? 'Cause from where I'm parked, it looks like you're messing around with some guy who ain't your husband in the house I've been breaking my back to pay for." Vance puffed up his chest and took another step. "You need to chill, man." I let out a dry laugh. "Chill? Oh, I'm plenty chill. Chill enough to notice you left your boxers on my stairs. Chill enough to record this whole little chat. And chill enough to do this. While they were upstairs, I'd fished his wallet out of his pants and found a number. I opened a video call and dialed it. It rang twice before connecting. "Vance, why's this number calling me?" a woman's voice asked. "Hi," I said, keeping the phone steady. "I'm Garrett Holden. Just thought you'd want to know your husband was hooking up with my wife in my bedroom." The woman's face collapsed on the screen, and I heard kids giggling in the background. Vance lunged for my phone. "You bastard!" I stood, still holding the phone out of reach. His fist swung and clipped my cheek, sending a burst of light across my eyes. I grew up scrapping in the backyards of Salem, so I wasn't fazed. I dropped the phone, grabbed his arm, and twisted it hard. He yelped like a kicked dog. "Garrett, stop it." Clara was sobbing now, her eyeliner streaking down her face. I drove my knee into Vance's gut, and he folded over, wheezing. Then I grabbed the back of his shirt and marched him to the front door. "Time to go," I said. "Grab your pride off my stairs on your way out. And if I catch you on my property again, I'll do worse than humiliate you in front of your family." I yanked the door open and shoved him onto the porch. He stumbled, caught the railing, and spun around with murder in his eyes. "This ain't done," he spat. "Oh, it's done," I said, slamming the door shut. I turned to Clara, who was slumped on the bottom step, face buried in her hands. "How long?" I asked. "Garrett, I can explain." "How long, Clara?" 7 months. 7 months. While I'd been pulling 12-hour shifts to cover the mortgage on this place, she'd been turning our bedroom into a cheap motel. While I'd been asking about her day over dinner, she'd been lying through her teeth. I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a whiskey, straight, the kind that stings going down and leaves you hollow. "I want a divorce," I said. Clara looked up, her face a mess of tears and mascara. "Garrett, please, we can fix this. It was a mistake." "A mistake? Forgetting to pay the electric bill is a mistake. Leaving the car unlocked is a mistake. 7 months of sleeping with another guy in our bed, that's a damn choice." She stood, trying to pull herself together. "You don't get it. You're always at the shop. I was lonely. So, you fixed that by hooking up with the first guy who gave you a smile?" "Don't talk to me like that," she snapped. "I'll talk however I damn well please. This is my house." "Ours," she said. "Not anymore." I grabbed my phone and called 911. "Yeah, I need to report a trespasser who assaulted me in my home." Clara's eyes went wide. "Garrett, what the hell are you doing?" "Making sure your buddy learns actions have consequences." The cops showed up 15 minutes later. Vance was still parked at the end of the driveway, probably trying to figure out how to spin this to his wife after getting caught on video. Officer Reynolds took my statement. I showed him the recording, the clothes strewn on the stairs, the bruise blooming on my cheek where Vance had landed his punch. "Pretty cut and dry," Reynolds said. "Are you pressing charges?" "You bet I am." They cuffed Vance right there, with half the neighborhood peeking out their windows. Old Mrs. Carver next door watched from her porch as they stuffed him in the squad car. By morning, the whole street would be buzzing. After the cops left, I dropped back into my armchair. Clara was upstairs, probably on the phone with her mom or her best friend, whoever she runs to when her world implodes. My phone pinged, a text from my daughter, Lila, who's off at college. "Dad, you okay?" Vance's wife just called me in tears. I texted back, "I'm good. Come home this weekend." My phone buzzed with a text from Clara. "We gotta talk." Then another buzz, this time from my lawyer, Miles Donovan. "Heard about the arrest. Call me first thing tomorrow. Don't sign anything, don't agree to anything, and don't leave the house." Solid advice. Miles had been untangling messy divorces in this town for over 2 decades. He knew the drill. I poured another whiskey and scanned the living room. 15 years of marriage, and it all crashed down to this. Clothes tossed on the stairs, and a cheating wife sobbing upstairs. Betrayal's got a way of clearing the fog, though. It rips off the mask and shows you who people really are. Clara wasn't the woman I'd swapped vows with. She was someone else. Someone who could stare me down and lie for 7 months, while I busted my hump, keeping us afloat. I heard her steps, creaking down the staircase, slow and deliberate. She'd wiped off the smeared makeup and thrown on a sweatshirt, looking like she was ready for a serious talk. "Garrett, can we just discuss this like adults?" she said, her voice shaky. I reckon we're past that point, don't you think? She perched on the arm of the sofa, keeping her distance like I was a live wire. I get that you're pissed, and you've got every right to be hurt, but we've got 15 years together. We've got Lila. You really want to toss all that out? I ain't tossing nothing. You did that when you let another guy into our bed. It ain't complicated, Clara. You made a choice, and now you get to deal with the fallout. She went quiet for a long stretch, her jaw tight. When she finally spoke, her tone had an edge. You act like you're some saint, don't you? Always at the shop, coming home reeking of grease, spending your weekends glued to the TV with a beer in your hand. You think that's the life I dreamed of? You signed up for better or worse, for richer or poorer. Till death do us part. Ring any bells? Those were just words, Garrett. This is the real world. Yeah, and in the real world, choices have consequences. I got up and walked to the window. Vance's car was gone, but I could still picture the cop car parked in its place. The neighbors were going to eat this up like gossip at a barbecue. I'm not leaving this house, I said. This is my home. I've been covering the mortgage for 15 years. If you want to go, the door's right there. Clara's voice shot up. You can't just throw me out. I've got rights, you know. Sure do. You've got the right to find yourself a sharp lawyer. You're going to need one. She stood, her face red with anger. You're going to regret this, you stubborn fool. Already do. Regret marrying you. Regret trusting you. Regret pouring 15 years into someone who'd stab me in the back. She stormed upstairs, and I heard the bedroom door slam like a gunshot. A few minutes later, she came back down, dragging a duffel bag. I'm crashing at my cousin's for a bit, she said. Give us both some space to cool off. Take all the space you need. She stopped at the door, her hand on the knob. I'm sorry, Garrett. I really am. But this marriage, it's been dead for a while, and you know it. Maybe. But I wasn't the one who buried it by fooling around with someone else. After she walked out, the house went still, like it was holding its breath. In just a few hours, my whole life had blown up. My wife was gone, and her lover was cooling his heels in a cell. I called Miles and left a voicemail. It's Garrett Holden. Clara and I are done. She's been cheating for 7 months, caught him today, and I had the guy locked up for taking a swing at me, hit me back. Then I called my boss and said I'd need a few days off. After 20 years of never missing a shift, I'd earned that much. The house felt different now, bigger, quieter, but somehow lighter, like I'd lanced a festering wound. I was nursing my third whiskey when my phone rang. It was Lila. Dad, what in the world happened? Mom's friends keep blowing up my phone, asking where she's at. Your mom was having an affair. Caught her today. She's at your aunt's now. There was a long pause on the line. Then, God, Dad, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry for me. Be sorry for her. She's the one who threw us away. You okay? Should I come home? I'm all right. Stick to the plan and come home this weekend. We'll sort out what's next. I love you, Dad. Love you too, kid. After we hung up, I sat in the dark, the house creaking around me like it always did. Tomorrow would bring lawyer talks, paperwork, and the headache of splitting up a life. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. I thought about Vance, stewing in his cell, probably wondering how his day went so sideways. I thought about Clara, spilling her sob story to her cousin, painting me as the bad guy. I thought about their 7 months of sneaking around, thinking they were slick. Betrayal doesn't just sting, it reshapes you. It tears down the lies you didn't even know you were living. It shows you the person you trusted most can look you dead in the eye and lie without blinking. But it also shows you what you're built from, what you'll put up with, and what you won't. It shows you what you'll fight to keep and what you're ready to let go. I downed the last of my whiskey and headed upstairs. The bedroom still carried the faint stink of betrayal. I threw open the windows, letting the crisp Oregon night air pour in, then ripped the sheets off the bed and tossed them in the wash. Tomorrow, I'd start piecing my life back together. Tonight, I'd crash in the spare room and dream about a future without my lying wife and her sorry excuse for a side piece. My phone lit up at 5:30 a.m. It was Miles Donovan, my lawyer. "Garrett, got your voicemail?" Man, what a disaster. Walk me through it. Over a mug of black coffee, I laid out the whole mess. The trail of clothes up the stairs, the showdown, Vance's arrest, Clara taking off. "Did you throw the first punch?" Miles asked. "Nah, he came at me after I showed his wife the video. I was just protecting myself." "Good. That's assault on his end. The trespassing charge might not hold since Clara let him in, but the assault's rock solid. As for the divorce, infidelity's still grounds in Oregon. You've got video proof. He swung at you, and you caught them red-handed. That's going to make this easier. Clara won't get much traction with a judge. The house? You've been paying the mortgage for 15 years, and it's your primary residence. Unless she can show she chipped in big time, you're likely keeping it. Lila's custody? She's 17, so the court will weigh her opinion heavily. Plus, Clara's the one who cheated and bailed on the family home. You're in a strong spot. We hashed out strategy and timelines for another hour. Miles was sure we could push for a quick settlement, especially if Clara's lawyer had half a brain and saw she was holding a weak hand. After we hung up, I headed to the shop. I needed the routine, tools in my hands, the straightforward puzzle of a busted engine. My buddy Wes was already there, sipping coffee and flipping through a car magazine. "Heard about the drama at your place yesterday," he said. "Word spreads like wildfire. Reynolds's brother-in-law works with my uncle. Said they hauled some guy off for taking a swing at you." Something like that. Wes set the magazine down and gave me a look. "You holding up, man?" "I'm good. Better than I thought I'd be." "Clara really stepped out on you? 7 months?" Wes shook his head. "Damn. I always figured she was solid. Folks ain't always what they seem." We worked in easy silence for a bit, the clank of tools filling the air. There's something calming about fixing engines when your life's in pieces. Machines don't lie. They either run or they don't. Around lunchtime, my phone pinged with a text from an unknown number. "This ain't over, jerk. You wrecked my life." I showed it to Wes. "Vance is out of jail." "You calling the cops?" "Not yet. Let him bury himself." I snapped a screenshot and sent it to Miles. Within an hour, he'd filed for a restraining order. The next few days settled into a rhythm: work by day, lawyer meetings at night, quiet evenings in an empty house. Clara called a couple times, but I let it go to voicemail. She was crying in both messages, going on about fixing things, saying she messed up. Lila rolled in Friday night. She wrapped me in a tight hug at the door, and I could feel the weight she was carrying. "How you doing, Dad?" "I'm all right. Better than I expected." We grabbed some pizza and camped out in the living room, talking about everything but the divorce. It almost felt normal, except for the glaring hole where her mom should have been. "You talked to Mom?" Lila asked eventually. "Not since she left. She's been calling me, crying her eyes out. Says you won't pick up." I got nothing to say to her. Lila looked at me, 17 and stuck between two parents who couldn't get their act together. Dad, I know she screwed up, but she's still my mom, and she's a wreck.
I'm sorry you're caught in this, kid. But your mom made her choice. She chose to betray us, and now she's got to live with it. She wants to come back. This ain't her home anymore. Lila went quiet for a bit. What happens now? We keep moving. You finish high school, head to college, build your future. I'll be here every step. Your mom, she's got to figure her own way. Saturday morning, I was in the garage, elbow deep in a carburetor, when I heard voices outside. Through the window, I saw Clara climbing out of her cousin's car, dressed sharp like she was headed to a meeting, makeup flawless. I wiped my hands on a rag and stepped out. "Hey, Garrett," she said. "Can we talk?" I glanced at her cousin, Marla, who stayed in the car. 5 minutes. We walked to the backyard, out of earshot. Clara took a deep breath. "I know you're mad, and I hurt you badly, but we can fix this. Counseling, a fresh start. 15 years of marriage is worth fighting for." Was it worth it when you were messing around with Vance Colton in our bedroom? She winced. That was a mistake. I was lost, lonely. You were unfaithful. Don't try to pull it up. Garrett, I'm begging you. Don't throw our family away over this. I ain't throwing nothing away. You already did that. What about Lila? Her future. You want her growing up in a broken home? She's already from one. The difference is, now it's out in the open. Clara's calm cracked, tears welling up. "You're loving this, aren't you, watching me fall apart?" "Ain't loving a damn thing, I'm just done playing pretend." "Pretend what?" "That we were happy. That our marriage was solid. That you were loyal. It was all a lie, Clara, and now I see it clear." She stood there, tears streaming. Then her face hardened. "You'll regret this," she said. "I'm coming for everything. The house, Lila, alimony, the works. Go for it. I can't wait to tell a judge why you think you deserve a dime after what you pulled." Clara spun on her heel and headed back to her cousin's car. I watched them peel out of the driveway, then went back to tinkering with the carburetor. Monday morning, my lawyer, Miles Donovan, called with an update. "Clara's hired Vivian Kessler," he said. "Should I be worried?" "Kessler's sharp, but she don't come cheap. Where's Clara getting the cash? Probably her cousin or Vance. Speaking of Vance, the restraining order's locked in. He can't come within 500 feet of you or your place. Good news. One more thing. Kessler filed for emergency custody of Lila and sole use of the house. My gut twisted. They can do that? They can try, but it's a long shot. We'll prep for the hearing Thursday. What's my move? Keep your cool, don't do anything rash, and let Kessler trip over her own ego. Come Thursday, I threw on my best jacket and met Miles at the courthouse in downtown Salem. Clara was there with her lawyer, looking like she hadn't slept. Vivian Kessler, a polished woman in her 50s, strutted with the kind of swagger that screams high-dollar attorney. She marched to the bench like she was running the show. "Your Honor," Kessler began, "my client requests emergency custody of the minor child and exclusive use of the marital home due to Mr. Holden's volatile and dangerous behavior." Judge Caldwell raised an eyebrow. "What dangerous behavior?" "Mr. Holden attacked Mr. Colton in front of his wife and child, displaying clear anger issues that create an unsafe environment for the minor." Miles stood up, calm as ever. "Your Honor, Mr. Holden was defending himself after Mr. Colton threw a punch. Colton was trespassing on Mr. Holden's property after engaging in an affair with Mr. Holden's wife. The assault charges are against Colton, not my client."
Is that accurate, Miss Kessler? Kessler's confidence flickered. Your Honor, regardless of who started the fight, Mr. Holden's actions have fostered a hostile environment. Judge Caldwell cut in. Miss Kessler, do you have evidence of Mr. Holden being violent toward his wife or daughter? No, Your Honor. Any evidence of substance abuse or neglect? No, Your Honor. Any proof he's unfit to parent his daughter? Kessler glanced at Clara, who looked like she might pass out. No, Your Honor. Then what's the emergency here? Your Honor, Mrs. Holden was forced to leave her home due to her husband's aggressive behavior. She has nowhere to stay and no access to her daughter. Miles jumped in. Your Honor, Mrs. Holden left of her own accord after being caught cheating. She's had full access to her 17-year-old daughter, who's old enough to decide who she wants to spend time with. As for the house, Mr. Holden's been paying the mortgage for 15 years and hasn't shown any violent tendencies. Judge Caldwell flipped through the papers, her face unreadable. Miss Kessler, infidelity is still grounds for divorce in Oregon. Your client was caught in the act, correct? Yes, Your Honor. In the marital home? Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Donovan, has your client blocked Mrs. Holden from seeing her daughter? No, Your Honor. Lila's been staying with her father by choice. And Mr. Holden's been covering the mortgage for 15 years? Correct, Your Honor. Judge Caldwell set the papers down. Ms. Kessler, I'm denying your motion for emergency custody and exclusive use of the home. Mrs. Holden can visit her daughter at any reasonable time, and both parties retain equal access to marital assets until the final divorce decree. Kessler's face flushed. Your Honor, I believe the court is overlooking the emotional toll this situation has taken on my client. Ms. Kessler, your client should have considered that toll before stepping out on her marriage. Motion denied. Outside the courthouse, Clara was in tears again. Kessler was trying to calm her, but I caught the edge in her voice. We'll appeal, she said. This is just round one. Miles and I headed to his truck. How'd we do? I asked. Better than I hoped. Kessler overreached, and Judge Caldwell's got no patience for cheaters playing the victim. What's next? Discovery. We'll dig into Clara's financials, texts, all of it. If she's been spending money on her fling, we'll find it, and she'll owe you for it out of her share. 2 weeks later, Miles called with a bombshell. Got Clara's phone records. She's been calling Vance daily since the arrest. Plus, she's been using your joint credit card for hotel stays. How many? 19 different hotels over 7 months, always on nights you were working late. Can we use that? Oh, yeah. Spending marital funds on her affair? That's going to hurt her. And get this, Vance was covering some of those hotel bills too. Same dates, his credit card. So they were scheming together. Looks like a full-on operation, not just a fling. A grim satisfaction settled in. The more dirt we dug up, the stronger our case got. Clara was playing the wounded party, but the evidence painted a different picture. That evening, Lila came home from school looking rattled. Dad, kids at school are talking about Mom. What are they saying? That she's a cheat? That she ruined our family? That you're going to get everything in the divorce? I sat across from her. Lila, this ain't easy, but your mom made choices, and choices have consequences. I can't stop the gossip, but it's not your burden to carry. It's not fair. She's still my mom. I know, and she always will be, but that don't erase what she did. Lila went quiet. She wants to see me this weekend. You can see her whenever you want. Will you come with me? No, kid. Your mom and I are done talking. Saturday morning, Lila headed to her aunt's place to see Clara. She came back 3 hours later looking wiped out. How'd it go?
I asked. She cried the whole time, kept saying she's sorry and wants to come home. She kept going on about how you're being unfair, Lila said. What did you tell her? I said I can't pick sides. I love you both. That's all you can do, kid. Dad, she's falling apart. Barely eating, not sleeping.
Aunt Marla says she just holes up in her room all day. I'm sorry she's hurting, but that's not on me to fix. She says Vance isn't picking up her calls. Didn't shock me. Vance got himself locked up and humiliated in front of the whole town. His wife probably kicked him to the curb by now. The last thing he needs is Clara dragging him down further. Lila, your mom's got to figure out how to pick up the pieces. That's not your job. But she's my mom. She is. And she made choices that broke this family. Now she's got to live with them. A month later, things started heating up. I was working late at the shop when Wes poked his head in, looking uneasy. Garrett, there's 3 guys out in the lot asking for you. I peeked through the window. 3 dudes in their 20s, leaning on a beat-up truck. One looked familiar, like Vance's kid brother. They say what they want. Something about settling a score for what you did to their buddy. I grabbed my phone. I'm calling the cops. Maybe slip out the back? Nah, I ain't running from these clowns. I stepped outside, Wes at my back. The trio sauntered over, trying to look tough. You Garrett Holden? The biggest one asked. That's me. What's this about Vance Colton? You got him arrested, cost him his job, his family. He's talking about ending it all. That's his mess, not mine. The shortest one stepped up. It's your mess now. You made it yours when you ruined a good guy's life. A good guy doesn't mess around with another man's wife. A good guy doesn't wreck someone over a mistake. I let out a dry chuckle. A mistake? 7 months of sneaking around ain't a mistake. It's a plan. The tall one closed the gap. You've got a choice. Drop the charges. Call off the divorce. Leave Vance alone. Or we make things real hard for you. That a threat? It's a guarantee. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Say it again. The short one swung at me. I ducked, and his fist smashed into the shop's brick wall. He howled, clutching his hand. The tall one grabbed my shirt. I slammed my knee into his gut, and he crumpled. The third lunged from behind, but Wes cracked him with a crowbar. Within minutes, all 3 were on the ground, and I was on the phone with 911. Need cops and an ambulance at Holden's auto shop. 3 guys just jumped me in my lot. Officer Reynolds rolled up with backup. I showed him the video, and they cuffed all 3 for assault and making threats. This is getting wild, Reynolds said. I'm done playing nice. If these fools want to push, I'll push harder. The next morning, Miles called. Heard about last night. You okay? I'm fine, but I'm ready to switch gears. What's the plan? I'm tired of playing defense. I want to file a civil suit against Vance for alienation of affection. Go after everything he's got. That's a big move, Garrett. You sure? They want to play dirty? I'll play dirtier. All right, I'll draw up the papers. But this is going to get messy. It's already messy. Now it's going to cost him. That afternoon, I drove to Vance's wife's place, a small apartment on the edge of Salem. She looked worn out, like she'd aged a decade in a few weeks. Mrs. Colton, I'm Garrett Holden. She eyed me through the screen door. I know who you are. I'm here to give you this. I handed her a copy of the civil suit. I'm suing your husband for alienation of affection. Her hands shook as she took the papers. How much? Everything. House, savings, pension, the works. He's got nothing left after legal fees. Then he'll have less. Mr. Holden, I get that he screwed up, but he's my kid's dad. You take everything. They suffer too. He should have thought of that before messing with my wife. She started crying. Please don't destroy what's left of us. Your family was done the day he chose to cheat. I'm just making sure he pays for it. I walked away, her sobs echoing behind me. I felt for her kids, but I was through being the good guy.
Vance wanted to play victim. Clara wanted to play victim. Their buddies wanted to threaten me. Fine. Let's see how they like being on the ropes. A week later, Miles called with news. Vance's lawyer reached out. Wants to settle the civil suit. For how much? They're offering 60 grand. Not enough. That's probably all he's got. Then he should have thought twice before sending his goons after me. What's your counter? Tell him 250 grand and a public apology in the local paper. They won't bite. Then we'll see him in court. 2 weeks later, we were back in court for the divorce hearing. Kessler had clearly prepped Clara. She looked polished, like she was auditioning for sympathy. Your Honor, Kessler said, my client is devastated by this divorce. She admits her mistake, but has been punished far beyond reason. She's lost her home, her family, her reputation, and faced public humiliation and threats. Mr. Holden's pursuit of vengeance has gone far beyond justice. Judge Caldwell turned to Miles. Mr. Donovan, your response? Your Honor, Mrs. Holden carried on a 7-month affair, using marital funds for hotel rooms and gifts for her lover. She repeatedly brought this man into the family home, betraying her husband and creating an unstable environment for their daughter. When confronted, she chose to leave rather than seek reconciliation. Your Honor, Kessler cut in, my client has made every effort to mend things with her husband, but he's shut down all communication. Miles stood tall. Your Honor, Mrs. Holden filed for divorce and hired a lawyer within 2 days of being caught cheating. That's not someone trying to save a marriage. Judge Caldwell sifted through the evidence for a good 20 minutes. Bank statements, hotel receipts, phone logs, texts, all laying bare a calculated months-long betrayal. Mrs. Holden, did you spend marital funds on this affair? Clara glanced at Kessler, who gave a slight nod. Yes, Your Honor. How much? About $9,000 over 7 months. And this affair took place in the marital home? Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Holden, are you seeking alimony? No, Your Honor. Custody of your daughter. Joint custody, Your Honor. But Lila's made it clear she wants to stay with me. Mrs. Holden, any evidence of Mr. Holden being violent toward you or your daughter? No, Your Honor. Any signs of substance abuse or neglect? No, Your Honor. Judge Caldwell set the papers down. I'm granting the divorce on grounds of infidelity. Mr. Holden keeps the marital home and primary custody of Lila. Mrs. Holden will retain her retirement account and personal belongings. She'll repay the marital estate $9,000 for funds spent on the affair. No alimony will be awarded. Kessler looked like she'd been slapped. Your Honor, my client deserves some consideration for 15 years of marriage. Miss Kessler, your client lost that consideration when she chose to cheat and spend marital funds on her lover. Divorce, granted, as stated. Outside the courthouse, Clara was a wreck, sobbing so hard she could barely stand. Kessler was rattling off appeal options, but Clara wasn't hearing it. This ain't over, Kessler snapped as Miles and I passed by. We'll appeal. Have fun with that, Miles shot back. In the parking lot, Lila was waiting for me, having ditched school to hear the verdict. How'd it go, Dad? It's done. We came out on top. She hugged me, but I could feel the weight in it. What's going to happen to Mom? She'll figure it out. She's got nowhere to go. Aunt Marla can't keep her forever.
That's not our problem anymore, kid. Dad, I know she messed up, but
Lila, your mom's a grown woman. She made her choices, and now she's got to deal with them. That night, while Lila and I were eating takeout, my phone rang, an unknown number. I picked up. Heavy breathing. Then, "You think you're on top? This ain't over, Garrett. You ruined my life. My wife's gone. My kids won't speak to me. I lost my job, my house, everything." "Good. I'm going to make you pay. Vance, you're breaking the restraining order just by calling. Want more charges on your rap sheet? I got nothing left to lose." The line went dead. I called the cops right away and reported it. They said they'd swing by the house. "Dad, who was that?" Lila asked. "Nobody worth worrying about." But that was a lie. Vance Colton was turning into a real problem, and problems like that don't just fizzle out if you ignore them. The next day, I took a personal day and drove to Vance's place, a dingy apartment in a rough part of Salem. His old cushy life was long gone. I knocked, and he opened the door in a stained robe, looking like he hadn't shaved in a month. "What the hell you doing here?" "We need to talk." I got nothing to say. "Oh, you had plenty to say last night on the phone." He tried to slam the door, but I wedged my boot in. "Here's how it goes, Vance. You leave me and my family alone. No more calls? No more sending your buddies to intimidate me? No more playing the victim? You messed with my wife, got caught, and now you're paying the price. That's how it works. You destroyed my life. You did that yourself. I just made sure you faced the music. My kids hate me. My wife took everything. I'm stuck in this dump because of you. You're in this dump because you made bad choices. Own 'em." He glared at me, eyes burning with hate. "I ought to take you out. But you won't. You're a coward. Cowards cheat. Cowards send others to fight their battles. Cowards make creepy calls in the dead of night. Real men? They face the consequences without crying about it." I turned and walked off, leaving him standing there, a broken shell of a man. 3 weeks later, Miles called with an update on the civil suit. Vance's lawyer wants to settle. How much? $100,000, and he'll sign a statement admitting fault and agreeing to cut all contact with you and your family. What about the public apology? They're pushing back, say it's too humiliating. Good. Humiliation's the goal. Counter with a $175,000, the signed statement, and a written apology in the Salem paper. I'll pass it along. The next day, Vance's lawyer agreed to the deal. Within a week, the money hit my account, and Vance Colton had publicly apologized in the local paper for his reckless actions that harmed the Holden family. The article was tucked away on page 7, but everyone in town saw it. Vance was a nobody now, his reputation as trashed as he'd tried to trash my marriage. I used the settlement cash to wipe out the mortgage. At 39, I owned my house in Salem outright. Not bad for an engine mechanic who'd been stabbed in the back by his wife. Lila graduated high school that spring and got into Oregon State. The night before she headed off to college, we sat on the front porch, just talking. "Dad, you gonna be all right here alone?" "I'll be fine. I kinda like the quiet." "You ever think about dating again?" "Not really. Trusting someone like that again? I'm in no rush. Not every woman's like Mom. I know, but I'm not ready to roll the dice and find out who's who." She went quiet for a bit. "You think Mom'll ever get her life together?" "That's on her, kid. I don't know." Clara had moved to Eugene after the divorce, working as a front desk clerk at a vet clinic. She called Lila weekly, always in tears, going on about how sorry she was and how life had been unfair. "She asks about you sometimes. Lila said. What do you say? That you're doing good. Seem happy. I am. Happier than I've been in years. For real? Yeah. Your mom spent years making me feel like I wasn't enough, like I had to change to keep her happy. Now I know I was never the problem. After Lila left for college, I fell into a groove. Work, gym, home. I started reading books I'd put off for years, picked up woodworking in the garage, slept better than I had in a long time. 6 months later, Wes invited me to a bar. I'd been dodging his invites for months, but something about that night felt right. All right, I said, let's do it. We hit up O'Malley's, a no-frills joint where the beer's cheap and the talk's straight. I was on my second drink when I noticed a woman at the bar's end, nose in a book. See her? Wes asked. That's Nora Callahan, works as a nurse at the hospital, divorced a couple years back. Good for her. Go talk to her. I ain't there yet. Garrett, it's been 2 years since Clara split. You can't stay solo forever. I'm not a hermit. I'm just a guy who learned his lesson. But my eyes kept drifting to Nora. She had a quiet kind of beauty, focused on her book, brushing off guys trying to buy her drinks. Her calm confidence reminded me of the Clara I thought I'd married way back when. As she got up to leave, she passed our table. Good read? I asked. She looked at me, caught off guard. It's all right, Stephen King. Not his finest. Which one? Dr. Sleep. Yeah, that one's heavy, even for him. She gave a small smile. You read King? When I've got time, I'm more into T.C. Boyle, Tortilla Curtain. It's grim but real. She laughed, a genuine one. I'm Nora. You're Garrett, right? Nice to meet someone who reads more than car manuals. After she left, Wes grinned. See? That wasn't so tough. I just talked books. That's how it starts. A week later, I ran into Nora at the grocery store, looking annoyed in the produce aisle. Trouble with the veggies? I asked. She turned, recognized me, and smiled, trying to figure out if these avocados are ripe. You don't buy avocados in October in Oregon. They're all shipped from Colombia. Taste like mush. So what do you do if you want avocados? Wait for summer or grab canned salsa and call it close enough. She laughed. That's painfully practical. I'm a practical guy. We ended up grabbing coffee at a diner nearby. Nora was easy to talk to, witty without forcing it, smart without showing off. She'd been divorced 3 years, no kids, worked as an ER nurse. What happened with your marriage? She asked.
My wife cheated for 7 months, caught him, and she tried to pin it on me. Ouch. Yours? My husband figured out he was gay after 12 years. That's tough. Honestly, it was a relief. I spent years wondering what I was doing wrong. Turns out, it wasn't me. We talked for 2 hours. When we split, she handed me her number. If you want to keep chatting sometime. 3 days later, I called. We had dinner at a quiet spot outside Salem, away from nosy neighbors. You don't have to hide, Nora said over pie. I'm not hiding. I just don't need the whole town dissecting my life. Fair, but they're going to talk anyway. Probably. So why not give them something worth talking about? I looked at her. This woman who'd been burned by marriage but still believed in people, who read novels, saved lives, laughed at my dumb jokes. You want to be worth talking about? With the right person. We dated low-key for 6 months before I introduced her to Lila over Christmas break. They hit it off, which surprised me. Lila had been fierce about protecting me since the divorce, side-eyeing any woman who got too close. She's not like Mom, Lila said, after Nora left. How's that? She actually hears you, doesn't just wait for her turn to speak. That's a good way to put it. You serious about her? Think so. Good. You deserve to be happy, Dad. A year later, Nora moved in. We didn't rush to get married, neither of us was eager for another legal knot. But we built something real, honest. The house, once poisoned by Clara's lies, felt like a home again. Nora's books lined up next to mine, her coffee cup sat beside mine in the sink, her scrubs hung next to my work shirts in the closet. One night over dinner, my phone rang. Lila calling from college. Dad, you need to hear this. Vance Colton's gone. My stomach dropped. What happened? He took his own life, Dad. Found him in his apartment. Nora looked at me, worried. When? Yesterday. They found him this morning. His brother called Mom, and she told me.
I nodded, trying to process it. You okay? Nora asked softly. Yeah, I said, but my head was spinning. Dad, there's more. He left a note, Lila said. What did it say? He blamed you, Dad. Said you ruined his life, and he couldn't handle the shame. A cold weight settled in my gut. Lila, listen close. Vance Colton wrecked his own life when he chose to mess around with my wife. Everything that followed was on him, not me. I know, but people are talking. They're saying you pushed him to it. Let him talk. His family's pissed, Dad. Real pissed. They're saying you should have shown mercy. After we hung up, Nora reached across the kitchen table and grabbed my hand. Tell me what happened. I laid it all out. The affair, the divorce, the civil suit, the whole mess. She listened, steady and quiet. No judgment in her eyes. You feel guilty? She asked when I was done. Nope. Should I? Only you can answer that. I thought it over for a long moment. He had choices every step. He chose to cheat. He chose to send his buddies to threaten me. He chose to keep pushing instead of owning his mistakes. I didn't make those calls for him, but you could have gone easier. I went plenty easy. I could have pressed charges for those creepy phone calls. I could have sued him for more. I could have made his life hell, but I didn't. And now he's gone. Yeah, because he couldn't face what he did? That's not on me, Nora. She squeezed my hand. I believe you. The next week, I dealt with the aftermath. Vance's family was threatening to sue me for wrongful loss, claiming I'd harassed him and caused him emotional distress. Miles Donovan just laughed when I told him, they've got no case. Everything you did was above board. You can't sue someone for winning in court. Let them try. They'll just burn through cash on lawyer fees. Vance's memorial was on a Wednesday. I didn't go, but Nora did. She came back looking pensive. It was heavy, she said. Maybe 60 people showed. His ex-wife brought the kids. They looked so lost. I feel for him. His brother said anything? Called you a monster in his speech. What do you think? I think hurt people lash out, and I think you're not to blame for Vance's choices. 6 months later, Vance's family dropped their lawsuit. Their lawyer must have laid out the hard truth of Oregon law. You can't sue someone for the fallout of your own bad decisions. Life settled back into a steady rhythm. I worked at the shop, came home to Nora, visited Lila at college, and slowly rebuilt the trust Clara had shattered. The house felt lighter, like the foundation had shed a heavy curse. One evening, 3 years after the divorce, I was in the garage sanding a wooden chair when a car rolled into the driveway. Through the window, I saw Clara climb out of a rusty Toyota. She looked worn down, hair streaked with gray, face etched with stress and regret. She stood there a long moment, gathering herself. I set down my tools and stepped outside. Hey, Clara. Garrett, thanks for seeing me. I ain't agreed to that. I'm just being civil. Can we talk? Just a few minutes? I glanced at the house, where Nora was in the kitchen fixing dinner. 5 minutes. "I heard about Vance," she said. "I know what folks are saying about you, and I want you to know I don't hold you responsible. He made his own choices." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I know what it's like to be blamed for someone else's downfall. People point fingers at me, too, saying I lured him, wrecked his marriage. Didn't you? We wrecked each other's marriages. But that doesn't make us responsible for what he did to himself." I studied her, looking for the old manipulation I knew so well. But she just looked exhausted, broken. "What do you want, Clara?" "To apologize. Not for what I lost, but for what I did to you, to us, to Lila. I was selfish, cruel. I told myself I deserved to be happy, that you weren't enough. Truth is, I was restless and stupid, thinking I could have it all without paying a price. Why now? Vance's end woke me up. You could have crushed me, Garrett. You could have made my life impossible, but you didn't. You fought for what was yours without trying to wipe me out just for kicks. I had no reason to wipe you out. I just wanted you gone." "That's what I mean. You're better than I ever was." I looked at this woman I'd shared 15 years with, now a stranger standing in my driveway. "Clara, I accept your apology, but it changes nothing. We're done." "We've been done for years," I said. "I know," Clara replied. "I just needed you to hear that I see what I lost, and I'm sorry." She turned and headed back to her beat-up Toyota. I watched her taillights fade down the street, then went inside. "Who was that?" Nora asked, looking up from the kitchen. "Clara." She wanted to apologize. "How's that feel?" "Like I finally closed the last page of a book I stopped reading years ago." Nora smiled, brushing a kiss on my cheek. "Good. I was getting tired of sharing space with a shadow." "You were never sharing space with anyone. You had me from the start." That night, we sat on the porch, sipping wine under a blanket of stars. The house felt calm, settled in a way it never was during my marriage. "Ever wonder what would have happened if you'd let her back in?" Nora asked. "Nope. Some things can't be undone. Not because someone doesn't deserve a second chance, but because forgiving them would mean pretending something didn't break you and rebuild you different. The affair changed you. Showed me who I am, taught me I won't stand for lies or disrespect, proved I'm tougher than I thought." "And Vance? You ever think about him?" "Sometimes I wonder how things might have gone if he'd owned his mistakes and tried to make it right instead of pointing fingers at me." "Feel responsible for what happened to him?" "Not a bit. Vance Colton made his choice to end things because he couldn't face the fallout. That's his burden, not mine." A year later, Lila graduated from Oregon State and landed a job in Portland. At her graduation party, she pulled me aside. "Dad, I'm proud of you." "For what?" "For not turning cold. For finding Nora. For showing me you can come through betrayal without turning into someone hard. Your mom wasn't a bad person, Lila. She just made bad calls. I know, but some folks would have used that as an excuse to get mean or bitter. You didn't. Had good reasons not to. Like what? You, for one. And the fact that letting bitterness win would have meant she beat me. Later, as the party wound down, I stood in the living room, where I'd faced Clara and Vance 4 years ago. The space was different now. Nora's books on the shelves, her photos on the walls. The old life was gone, replaced by something truer, better. Wes came up, handing me a beer. "You look deep in thought." "Just reflecting. Good memories, bad ones, but mostly just glad I'm not that guy anymore." "What guy?" "The one married to someone who could lie to my face for 7 months without blinking." "You're better off." I know. After everyone left, Nora and I cleaned up the party mess. As we worked, I thought about the road that brought me here. Betrayal, divorce, the fight, Vance's end, Clara's apology. It all led to this quiet night with a woman who loved me for real. "What's on your mind?" Nora asked. "How lucky I am." "Lucky? That Clara cheated?" She laughed. "That's one way to spin it. If she hadn't, I'd still be stuck with someone who didn't love me enough to stay true. I'd be living a lie, and I wouldn't have you." She kissed me, soft and steady, and I felt what it was to be loved by someone who meant it. 5 years after the divorce, I was living the life I was meant for. Honest work, honest love, honest peace. Clara did me a favor by showing her true colors. Vance did me a favor by being dumb enough to get caught. Sometimes the worst thing that happens turns out to be the best thing possible. Sometimes justice is just another word for standing your ground. And sometimes, if you're lucky, one story's end is the start of a better one. I never saw Clara again after that driveway talk. Word was, she moved to Arizona, got a job at a hotel. Lila visited her once a year, but they weren't tight. The woman who'd been my world for 15 years was just someone I used to know. Vance Colton became a small-town cautionary tale. The guy who threw it all away for an affair and couldn't handle the consequences. His passing was ruled a self-inflicted end, and his family eventually stopped trying to pin it on me. The house I fought for became the foundation of a new life. Nora and I got married in the backyard 3 years after we met, with Lila as maid of honor and Wes as my best man. It was a small gathering, just close family and friends, but it felt more real than the big show Clara and I had years before. On our wedding night, in the bedroom that once held my worst shame, Nora asked if I ever regretted how things played out. "Not a chance," I said. "Every step I took brought me to you. I wouldn't change a thing, not even the hurt. The hurt taught me what I won't put up with. It made me strong enough to deserve you." She was quiet for a moment. "I love you, Garrett Holden. I love you too." And lying there in my own bed with my honest wife, I finally knew what real happiness was. Not the shaky, desperate kind I'd chased with Clara, but the steady, solid kind that comes from knowing who you are and what you're worth. The echoes in the stairwell were gone. The house was at peace.